ahead and bring your attention to the breath sensations at the nostrils. For the next 10 minutes, we're just going to focus on stabilizing our attention on these sensations of the inhalation and the exhalation. Once the 10 minutes is up, we're going to shift to a different technique for another 10 minutes, and then shift to a third technique for the following 10 minutes. And then we'll repeat the cycle. But for now, just bring that attention to the breath at the nostrils. Just slowly letting your mind sensitize itself to these subtle sensations. Don't try to manipulate the breath or change your breathing in any way. Just do what feels comfortable. You might find that a longer breath is more energizing to the body, a slower inhale and a slower exhale. Or you might not. Just notice what your body naturally wants to do, with the origin of that attention being the breath. As we work towards stabilizing our attention here, make sure not to let the background awareness of the rest of our sensory experience collapse. Even though the center of our attention is at the breath sensations, we want to make sure that our awareness is alive, that it's still taking in sensory information in the background, that we haven't let it collapse and dissolve as we work towards focus here, as we work towards stabilizing that attention. So even though we are concentrated right now, keep that awareness alive, fluid, spacious in the background. If you get lost in thought, feel appreciation when you notice that mental wandering. There's something powerful about having a moment of insight like that, having a moment of clarity and mindfulness. That quality of mind is what allows us to see deeply into ourselves and into the nature of things. And it's worth feeling appreciation. So when the mind does inevitably wander and we notice, see if you can cultivate just a subtle feeling of appreciation for having noticed that wandering. throughout the meditation, I encourage you to utilize this orientation, this approach to distractions. But for now, let's just keep with the breath. Perhaps you feel an expansive quality on the inhale and more of a contractive quality on the exhale. You may notice that each of these creates a subtle difference, a subtle distinction in awareness as they undulate back and forth. Again, if your mind wanders, just cultivate that feeling of appreciation and gently return the attention back to the breath. Good work. Now go on ahead and let that attention fill the whole of awareness such that instead of letting our attention fall on any one object, we simply try to just be aware of all of our sensory experience at once. Try to let the attention and awareness merge. Let the whole of your sensory experience be the object of your focus. And with each breath, see if you can't open that awareness up further, extending the boundaries. Let that awareness be spacious. Let it be fluid. Let your whole experience just fill itself as we rest in that spacious awareness of all sensory phenomena. If thoughts appear, this isn't a problem. We can just witness them as more experience within this awareness. It's only when we get dragged into them, when we let the thoughts collapse our concentration and drag our attention span, does it really become an issue. So if thoughts appear, that's no problem. Just watch them. Create that distinction between the thoughts themselves and the witnessing of the thoughts. In this case, awareness would be like the sky, whereas a thought would just be a passing cloud. So just be open to any experience. Again, we aren't focused on any one thing in particular. So if you find that your attention has contracted around an object, see if you can open that back up. Let it become more spacious. And even if you feel like you haven't let your attention contract around an object, encourage that awareness to be more expansive, to be more open, to be more spacious. We want all of our experience to be integrated here, to be one fluid motion of reality. You may find that softening your shoulders, softening your jaw, relaxation in the body helps create more openness. Oftentimes, tension and contraction go hand in hand, so See if you can soften your jaw, your shoulders, your eyelids, your forehead. Just creating more space in the body helps create more space within awareness or within consciousness. Remember, if you find yourself being pulled by thoughts, that's okay. Just appreciate that moment of insight, that moment of mindful penetration into the mind. And then return back to that openness, that open awareness. Whatever arises is okay. One of the qualities of this awareness is that it's very accepting of any sensation, any experience. So trying to cultivate that acceptance within ourselves, it's more like we're integrating with that awareness, merging with it as we cultivate acceptance and openness around our direct experience as well. Any emotions that arise or anything, any thoughts, any tensions, just be open. Good. Now let's turn our attention onto our emotions. We could gently ask ourselves, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling bored? Anxious? Maybe I don't normally meditate this long. Maybe I'm feeling happy, or there are feelings of pleasure that are circulating in my body right now. Just begin to tune attention to sensitize towards our emotions and where they are spatially located in the body. And the more that we practice feeling our emotions, the more refined and sensitized we will be to feeling them in everyday life. So just notice how you're feeling right now. For many, emotions are strongest around the chest area, or perhaps around the face, the forehead, even the throat. Just notice your emotions here. Good, bad, all of it's okay. If you're feeling neutral, notice that neutrality, that innate acceptance of not being pulled around by wanting to end something negative or wanting to grasp at something positive. No matter the emotion here, we're wanting to create a spacious and open environment for them to come up. So again, just feel into your feelings. What's interesting is that sometimes multiple emotions can be manifesting within the same moment or within the same string of moments. And it's only when we turn our attention inward and begin discerning our emotional body do we see that we can be feeling multiple things at once, which creates a sort of conglomeration of emotional sensations. But the more sensitive that we get, the more that we can tap into the different frequencies that these emotions give off in the body. We begin to be able to discern at deeper and deeper levels how we're feeling, or the underlying emotions that may give rise to the surface level emotions. Just be patient with yourself. There's a lot of depth to this practice and work. Even if you feel nothing at all right now, that can sometimes be an outward manifestation of a deeper feeling. So just focus on tuning in, refining that awareness and attention around the emotional space. You may try experimenting with creating a gentle smile on your face and seeing how that shifts the energy dynamic of the emotional body. If you create that smile, can you feel any sort of energetic flux around your heart area, or perhaps even an emotional, energetic flux around the face? You may notice how different emotions are commingling and synthesizing, dissolving in this state of very microcosmic flux moment by moment. Again, though, just be open to anything, even if we're feeling a bit anxious or bored, perhaps stronger emotions like anger is coming up. Be open to all of it until an emotion is allowed the space to breathe, to express itself. It will still be operating under the threshold of awareness. So it's important to allow and accept anything that needs to arise here, any emotion that needs to come up. You can check out different parts of the body. Maybe you feel pleasure in your hands, for example. Sometimes that can be where bliss appears. Maybe you feel a constriction around the chest with anxiety. It's all good. Just create that awareness about it. Great work so far. Let's go on ahead and bring our attention back to the physical sensations at the nostrils, while also keeping our background awareness very much alive. We don't want to become so concentrated on the breath that we become dull and desensitized to experience. In fact, this would facilitate a more distractible mind. It's that background awareness that allows us to see and keep guard over our attention. So as you notice the breath here, at a very particular spot, keep all of that experience alive in the background. We are both concentrated and expansive here. When distractions arise, again, cultivate that appreciation. Reinforce that positive feedback loop of noticing, penetrating into the mind. Perhaps even get curious about why the mind is so resistant to settling and just being in the moment. It is rather mysterious, but let that curiosity just be in the background if it wants to be. Keep the focus on the breath for now. See if you can begin to discern the different micro fluctuations of sensation within each inhalation and exhalation. If we sharpen our concentration enough, we can see and feel that there are slight, distinct breath sensations even within a single inhalation and even within a single exhalation. Try to notice that refined concentration around the breath. You might even begin to feel the breath sensations around this area expanding and contracting into and out of the awareness, such that the breath is pushing the boundaries of awareness out. And collapsing into the boundaries of awareness as you exhale. Just be with that expansion and contraction. The more refined that this concentration gets over time, the more powerful these sensations will become. We start to notice the subtle ways that even the breath is shaping and molding our sensory experience. How even the breath can affect the state of the mind. So being able to learn to concentrate allows us to start to learn from the breath, to start to see the interrelationship between the physical external world and the mental and internal world. In this way, the breath is like a bridge between the two. Great work. Now let's open that attention back up, letting that attention expand into all of awareness, such that, again, our entire sensory field becomes the object of meditation. Really focus on creating that openness, intentionally cultivating a sense of space around all sensory experience, cultivating an integration of all phenomena, noticing that all phenomena are occurring to one awareness that seems to pervade and interpenetrate all of it at once. Every thought, every feeling of self, every emotion, every sight, sound. It's all in one space. Notice that. Be with that. Expand into it. Let it fill and expand into you. we may notice that as the mind settles down, the quality of this awareness seems to brighten up. But even in a sense, the awareness remains unaffected by what the mind is doing. When we can notice this awareness, when we can be as this awareness, we see that all thoughts and emotions, all movements of perception are permitted. Again, if any thoughts appear and pull you in, that's fine. Just notice that. Let that insight into the distraction take root, and appreciate that you had a moment of mindfulness, a moment of clarity. And then allow yourself to open back up into that open awareness, that open consciousness. Perhaps the meditation is getting challenging. There are feelings of resistance, contraction, tension. Again, we can soften the body, we can soften the breath, and just try to create an open space around those feelings if they're there. Maybe we're even resisting at a subtle level. Maybe there's part of the mind that wants this to be over. That's okay. Give that part of the mind compassion, acceptance, love. And just be open. You may notice that the boundary of the body is actually a contraction of perception. But when we really create openness around the experience, this can start to dissolve the feelings of being a body at all. there is a fluidity around the perception of physicality. When we get really open with our awareness, this openness can run through us. All of the senses can start to synthesize, intermingle, become wave-like and fluid. Even if this isn't happening, that's fine. There's work and productive training at all levels, at all states of consciousness. Whatever you're experiencing, just be open. Be open to all of it. Great work. Now let's tune back into our emotions. But this time, I'd like for you to try to actively cultivate a feeling of compassion for yourself, a feeling of appreciation for having completed so much meditation thus far. See if you can't evoke some self-appreciation, or perhaps just compassion for yourself for what your path has been thus far that has motivated you or driven you to practice at this rigor. I would encourage you to bring a smile, just a gentle smile to your face, and see how that affects things. You maybe feel more appreciation or happiness for having gone this far. Even if you're feeling neutral, notice that we can still send appreciation, gratitude towards that neutrality. Grateful for a mind an emotional system that is settled, that is, in some sense, at peace. Many people don't have that blessing, don't have that quality of mind. If you can pick up on any subtle levels of positive feeling, whether pleasurable, whether happiness, contentment, you can try evoking more of that, almost as though you're tending to a very small fire. Sometimes we have to guard the fire from wind. Sometimes we have to poke it a little bit to let it grow. So you may guard these positive feelings, any feelings that you have of positivity, compassion, self-love, metta. You can guard those from the mind that wants to diverge and distract. You can poke them with the intentionality of appreciation or acceptance. For many of us, our minds have taken a position that we must do X, Y, or Z before we can feel good, before we can feel accomplished, before we can feel worthy. But if we create enough space in the mind, these types of limitations, these types of positions can dissolve. We need no reason at all to feel content, at peace, and happy for ourselves, with ourselves, as ourselves. You need no logical reason at all to send yourself love. Try to tend to any subtle feelings of positivity. You may find that they reach an inflection point where effort and intentionality is no longer really needed. And just tune in, tend to the heart. there is an innate compassion inside of all of us that is truly boundless and unconditional. When we can start to notice this quality of compassion inside of ourselves, for ourselves, we realize that we can then in turn give it to the rest of the world. A compassion that holds the seeds of appreciation, happiness, joy, tranquility, connection to all sentient beings. But it's important to start with ourselves. With our own personal awakening. And we may notice that this compassion is available for ourselves and for others in all moments.